Can you able to see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Today I'll be introducing you to the topic, and I'll be asking questions in between. If you cannot talk, or if there is any network issue, you can also post your questions or answers in the chat box. Okay. I'll be checking that. And attendance you can post at the end of the class or beginning of the class at a stretch, not in between, because the questions will be missed out. Okay. So in this course, that is Plant Biotechnology 1 to PBT 1-1, you have 3 components. Okay. So one component is plant tissue culture, another component recombinant DNA technology, and the third component is molecular markers. Okay. So before going to the actual content of the course, I just would like to know what is the requirement of biotechnology. So there are a lot of tools, techniques that is already in place. Okay, so breeding, conventional method of breeding is already there for the achieving the ultimate objective of plant biotechnology. See, biotechnology, like any agricultural scientist, the final objective is to increase the yield or to get the crops that are high yielding with the desirable traits. Okay, so when you have already all the techniques like conventional breeding, most sophisticated in fact. So what is the need for biotechnological tools, and why should you study this course? Okay, what you will be going to study in this course, which will help you in understanding the other courses, or which you will not study in other courses. Okay, so somebody has raised the hand, you can speak. Yeah. Okay, there's nothing to speak. Okay, and since this is first class, I'm letting you still. Okay, from next class, once the class schedule time is started, you'll not be let inside the class. Okay, so this is for your information. So now, why should we have plant biotechnology, and when the plant biotechnology started actually? So in this course, we have 3 components. I'll leave the questions. If you're not answering, I'll leave the questions. I'll not answer those questions. Okay. Plant tissue culture, recombinant DNA technology, and molecular markers. So now we have to understand, what do we do here in plant tissue culture, recombinant DNA technology, and what can we do using molecular markers. Okay, so basically the course deals with the tools and techniques, majorly the tools and techniques that you can use for improvement of crops. Okay, it can be disease resistance, it can be high yield, or it can be integrating any quality traits. Okay, so what is the special of plant biotechnology when there are already so many methods which are in place which are addressing these problems? I said, if the first thing that I told you, that in improving the yields and imparting disease resistance, stress resistance, all those things. So which are already in place. What is the requirement of plant biotechnology? So gradually we'll understand that those the problems which cannot be addressed by the conventional techniques, conventional methods, plant biotechnology will going to address. Okay, so before going to the actual tools, let us understand. Okay, so today I'll be sharing you the Van's slides from University of Science. This is not my slides. Okay. So though the word biotechnology was first used in 1917, the concept of biotechnology is not new. It has started like even before that. It's called as old biotechnology, where people used to use industrial fermentations. They used to use like a domestic scale also. There has to be a lot of applications of microorganisms in day-to-day life, starting from cheese making, bread making, wine making. In every aspect of day-to-day life, the applications of microorganisms were there. And if you actually understand the definition of biotechnology, see, you have to first be thorough with the definition of biotechnology. It is not just the genetic engineering. See, by now you would have already be familiar with genetic engineering, transgenic crop, the terms, the words, transgenic crops, biotechnology, genetic engineering, gene manipulations, all these terms you would have already heard. So after completing this course, you should at least be clear about the definition of biotechnology. Okay, if you split this word biotechnology, there are two components, bio and technology. Okay, so technology is basically technology. The term the word technology, it comes with many other like in combination with many other words like science and technology, information technology. So what is this technology? Or you can also, you would have also seen technological advances. So technology basically means applications of science. Okay, how you apply the knowledge that you have gained into practical use. That is what technology means. So what is biotechnology then? Biotechnology is basically applying the knowledge that you have gained in biological systems, or using these biological systems to meet out the practical needs of the humans. Okay, so specifically, according to Convention on Biological Diversity, biotechnology is defined as any technological application that uses biological systems, living organisms, or derivatives theory to make or modify products or processes for specific use. Here, you have to observe that biotechnology need not always manipulate or modify, even just the making. For example, in tissue culture, even if you don't alter anything, even if it is just the multiplication, still it is biotechnology. Application using any biological organism for meeting out the practical needs of human or for benefit of human beings. It is called biotechnology. So biotechnology is very broad terminology, which was coined by Carl Erecki, Karlerecky, okay, Carl Erecki in 1917. As I said, though biotechnology term is new, but the concept of biotechnology or applications of living organisms in day-to-day for the benefit of humans is not new. Okay, and biotechnology is also defined as by Council for Biotechnology Information, a precise process in which scientific techniques are used to develop useful and beneficial plants. Okay, plant biotechnology is described as a precise process in which scientific techniques are used to develop useful and beneficial plants. Let's see how the different processes or different progresses or advancements has led to the evolution of these applications into the modern era of biotechnology. So to begin with, our major interest, that is the interest of humans, is production of food. Okay, so the ultimate aim of anything, it attracts the major attention because that is the major component of our living. So in order to begin with, the humans have started domesticating the crops. So the plant breeding actually started with when humans learned domestication of crops. Domestication is they started growing their interested crops or looking for the good performing plants. So they started looking for desirable traits. Okay, so with that domestication started, and with that plant breeding began with with domestication of crops. So I'll just run through a few of the slides. This you would have already been studied in other courses. So it started around 12,000 years ago. And between 18,000 to 8,000 to 4,000 BC, bread making was recorded, and the cultivation of rice in China was recorded. And between 4,000 to 1,000 BC, food crops like potato, wheat, pea, sunflower, millet was recorded in America and in Eurasia. And use of selective breeding techniques was with date palm was recorded in by Babylonians. And you can see the difference of the wild species, the crop, and the domesticated. So there are two examples here, the tomato and maize. So you can see this is the wild maize and this is the domesticated one. So over the period of time, it has evolved. Humans have selected for their desired characteristics, and this is the tomato and this is the domesticated one, now the cultivated tomato. So over the period of time, humans have selected for bigger side, better taste, traits which have led to the evolution of these crops. So what you have to understand here is evolution, modification is the process, okay, the process which has led to the current crops. So here, how exactly this selection, artificial selection is done. For example, if you take the example of kernel oil content in kernel, okay, so the first thing you have to observe variation. So for any crop improvement programs, the basis is genetic variation. So what is genetic variation? The variation present across the individuals with respect to one particular gene or with respect to different genes. For example, if you take any diseases, okay, so the population can have highly resistant some X disease. If you take, the population will have highly resistant disease, moderately highly resistant individual, moderately resistant individual, highly susceptible individual. So this is the variation. Or if you take skin color, okay, or hair color, or texture of hair, or eye color, okay, there will be variation in the population with respect to these traits. Okay, so this is the variation. So when you are looking for a particular trait that you are interested in, for example, the example that we have selected here is the oil content in the kernel. So the population will basically will have certain plants which are having high oil content, certain plants which are having low oil content. So this variation is the basic requirement of crop improvement. Okay, so this is the basic requirement, and there can be chances where there will not be the variations like may not be appropriate, which is required for breeding program. That we'll discuss later. But to begin with, you have to remember that for any crop improvement program, the basic requirement is genetic variation. This is very important point. Basic requirement for any crop improvement program is genetic variation with respect to the the trait that you are looking into. It can be disease resistance, it can be quality improvement, it can be concentration, it can be anything. So let us take this example of oil content in kernels. So you have to observe the variation that is present in the population, and in that population, how they go for desirable selection. They only select oil rich kernels and go for next generation. Okay, so this will be repeated continuously. Observe high oil producing plants, collect the seeds, go for next generation. Again, select high oil producing plants, high oil containing kernels, and then go for next generation. So after many generations, after like 4-5 generations or 4 to 6 generation or 8 generation, there will be increase in oil content, and you will have a stabilized population with increased oil content. And what you have to remember is like after certain improvement, there is also chances that it leads to a saturation. So that will address later. What should we do when it reaches saturation? But for now, what is artificial selection? It is selecting for desirable traits. Okay, so with this background, classical plant breeding started, which also involved science of genetics. Okay, so then like when no, as variation is important and as it leads to saturation, then what next? So crossbreeding to strengthen the traits. So breeding, crossing two plants, so that came to existence. So now in 1735, Linnaeus, he classified all these plants, and plant taxonomy came into existence. And then evolution, theory of evolution by natural selection was given by Charles Darwin. And then in 1865, the important discovery for breeding was by Gregor Mendel, who discovered the laws of inheritance by studying flowers in his garden, by studying peas. Dheeraj, you have to mute your, why did you unmute your phone? Okay. So now the Gregor, he studied different traits in peas, and he gave the laws of inheritance, and by studying 7 different traits. Okay, and this I'll not go into detail. You will be studying that in the genetics classes. And then came the hybrid breeding. So the first thing is genetic variation. When there is no sufficient genetic variation, or when you want higher vigor, then crossing two distantly related crop plants or the parental lines, which results in giving the better performance than both of the plants. So here, 2 parental lines of normally outbreeding species are inbred through several self-pollinations. Then crossing such lines will have hybrid vigor. Okay, and here also you will be selecting the traits for your trait of interest. So you can see here the inbred lines. Okay, in cross-pollinated crops, especially over like if the self-pollinations over the years, it will you will call it as inbred lines. So inbred lines crossing two inbred lines, you will get an hybrid. So hybrid breeding, it strengthens the traits. So variety in genetic structure enhances viability against diseases, pests, climate variability. So the diversity in the genome content, genomes will improve the traits, okay, and its performance in the varied environment. So first hybrid potato was launched in 1923 by Russet Burbank, and hybrid maize in 1933. Okay. And modern plant breeding, it incorporates three: mutation breeding, green revolution, and plant tissue culture breeding. Plant tissue culture, I'll come later in these slides. Okay, when we start biotechnological concepts. So the basic modern plant breeding, it involves mutation breeding and green revolution. So what is mutation breeding? See, basically any technique that you employ if in crop improvement, it will be targeting enhancing the genetic variation or inducing the genetic variation in the population. As I said, genetic variation is the basis of crop improvement. So what does this mutation breeding, like what do we do in mutation breeding? Here the seeds are treated with either radiation or mutagenic chemicals to induce larger or smaller lesions in the genes. So you know that genes are the uh, the components which transfer the traits from one generation. They are the which are responsible for transfer of traits from one generation to another generation. So they code for different traits. So any changes that you bring in the genes or gene sequence that results in change in the desirable in the characteristic of the organism. So when you treat the seeds with mutagenic chemicals or radiations, they bring in changes in the genes. That means they change the sequence of the gene, which results in changes in the plants. And here there can be both negative and positive, but through selection, you will only select those mutations which are favorable, which are desirable for your trait. Okay, so the mutations are at random. This you know. So mutations will generally be at random over the genome. So usually mutation results in a loss of function of genes. So the mutation breeding was first employed in barley by Starter. So from then, mutation breeding became very popular and it has been employed in improving many crops. And during 1960 to 1970, the period of Green Revolution, and the man behind this was Norman Borlaug. He actually is the man behind Green Revolution, and incorporation of dwarfing genes from wheat and use of agrochemicals led to explosion of in crop yields. Okay, so which was termed as Green Revolution, and to which he was awarded Nobel Prize in 1970. And he was also called as father of Green Revolution, and this you all know very well. So now the most important question is, why should we do plant biotechnology? What is the requirement? Okay, so plant tissue culture, recombinant DNA technology, both can be done for, again, bringing in variations in the population or the germplasm. Okay, because that is the major requirement for crop improvement. That is one particular point. And the second important thing, there are many problems that you face during conventional crop breeding. For example, I said crossing is one important technique in plant breeding, which will help in mixing of genomes from two distant individuals, giving the hybrid vigor or positive traits. Okay, but the problem here, sometimes when you cross two distant individuals, when you cross two different individuals, the progeny may not be produced. If progeny is produced, it may not be viable. If it is viable, it may not be strong enough, it may not be good enough. All these are the drawbacks of conventional program. So how we can address these problems? Are there any techniques in plant biotechnology that can address these problems? For example, if you cross wild tomato with domestic tomato, or wild maize with domestic maize, or maize with barley, okay, or maize with wheat, you may not get the viable progeny. Or can you execute such crossing, okay, such fusions? So all these questions can be answered in plant biotechnology. So some of the techniques will be discussing in detail in the future classes. Okay, so some of the techniques that addresses these problems are embryo rescue, somatic variation, somoclonal variations, somatic hybrids, generation of haploids, all these things. Okay, so these are the certain techniques that are employed, or that are the solutions for the problems that arises during crop breeding programs. So to start with plant biotechnology, the major first component in this course is plant tissue culture. So plant tissue culture was originally proposed, or it was tried by Haberlandt, and he's called as father of plant tissue culture. And he proposed, based on the cell theory of Sheeran and Shavan, he felt that, like, what does the cell theory proposes? So every cell can arise from the pre-existing cell, and each cell contains all the information that can result in the entire organism. Okay, this is the major crux of cell theory. So now, based on this theory, he felt if the cell has all the information that is present to produce the organism, why can't we produce the complete organism with cells itself? So he started culturing the cells. And then he proposed that plant cells are totipotent. So what is totipotency? All those things we'll discuss in the later class. This is exclusively for understanding what are the, like how the plant biotechnology evolved over a period of time. Then in 1904, Hanning isolated mature zygotic embryos from seeds of crucifer and then grew them to maturity in a defined medium. 1925, interspecific cross was made, that is the embryos Liebeck isolated and grew embryos. Embryo culture was reported in 1925 with Linum perenniae and Linum austriacum. Then Skoog discovered kinetin in 1948. Till then, there was no much achievement in plant tissue culture because they could not grow beyond certain point, because growth regulators are important component in plant tissue culture. So that was understood only after the discovery of kinetin. So Cook discovered kinetin and he found out that it could induce organogenesis in callus culture of tobacco. And then in 1957, Cook and Miller, they demonstrated the effects of interaction of growth hormones on organogenesis of plants. So they gave that auxin to cytokinin ratio, if it is more than 1, it results in root formation. Auxin to cytokinin ratio, if it is less than 1, results in shoot formation. And auxin to cytokinin ratio, if it is equal, then it will result in callus formation. And then in 1962, Murashige and Skoog, who's basically teacher and student, they developed a medium which is called as Murashige Skoog medium. It's a popular and most widely used till now medium in plant tissue culture. That's MS medium. Those who are in GKVK, in near horticulture, there's a plant tissue culture lab in horticulture department, and the idols of these two, it is there in front of plant tissue culture lab. You would have already seen that. Okay, Murashige Skoog. Haploid plants were developed in 1964 from Datura anthus. This was from Indian scientists Maheshwari and Guha, and first interspecific hybridization, that is protoplast fusion, was reported in 1972 by Carlson, and in 1974 haploid plants were derived from tobacco microspore. And in 1977, they found out that tDNA can be integrated into plants. Okay. So now, as I said, two areas of plant biotechnology, plant tissue culture and recombinant DNA technology. You have to remember always plant technology, plant biotechnology, it does not directly, what you can say, it does not only include genetic engineering. Okay, it is a broad term which includes many techniques, and genetic engineering is one component of this broad discipline. So plant tissue culture, here you can use genetic engineering, or without genetic engineering also you can improve crop plants. So plant tissue culture is basically plants cloning, and then another component is recombinant DNA technology. So recombinant DNA technology, the first breakthrough of the century is discovery of the structure of DNA. So that gave paved way for rDNA technology, because we got to know how DNA is arranged, how it can be manipulated subsequently. James Watson and Francis Crick described double helical structure of DNA in 1962. In 1953, and they got Nobel Prize in 1962, along with Maurice Wilkins. And you also should remember another person in this contribution, Rosalind Franklin. And in 1972, Paul Burke discovered restriction enzymes, which the important enzymes which gave rise to recombinant DNA technology. And then in 1973, Cohen and Boyer, they created first recombinant DNA using bacterial genes with these restriction enzymes and the ligases. So now what is the difference? See, we have two techniques, the conventional breeding method and the biotechnological applications to come out with the improved variety. So what is the difference between genetically modified organism and the traditional breed? So what you have to understand is, basically when we do agriculture, we are actually modifying crops genetically. So whatever the process of domestication, or the process of mutation breeding, or the crossing, everywhere you are modifying the genomes. You are reshuffling the genomes, and you are expecting that in our desirable, you are expecting that to inherit the desirable traits. So while we know that there are there has been various forms of agriculture for more than 10,000 years, or so as evidenced by seed production, hand pollinating, crossbreeding, and controlling weeds are all part of this long history of selecting for specific genetic structures of desirable crop traits. You have to observe this and you have to understand this. Okay, so genetically modified crops or transgenic crops are different in that we are taking genes that would otherwise never be able to get into a given genetic structure to alter crop traits. Okay, so basically what we are doing in genetic manipulation is, see, in case of breeding, you can cross two crops, however distant related it is. And if at all, to maximum extent, we can also employ other techniques, plant tissue culture and viable plant. But can you cross a plant with an insect or the microbe? So that is where genetic engineering comes in. Okay, so the gene that is present in bacteria or the insect or the spider or any other organism can be incorporated into the crop plants. So basically there it is genetic manipulation. Okay, so when it comes to biotechnology, the entire living organisms becomes the germplasm. Okay, so you can pick genes from any of the organism and you can do the improvement. So first GM plants came in 1983 with tobacco, which was resistant to kanamycin and methotrexate, petunia resistant to kanamycin, and sunflower, which was transformed with the gene from Finch bean. In 1985, first GM plants in UK and GM cotton in 1990. In 1992, GM foods came under regulation. And in 1994, Flavor Saver tomato, the first genetically modified crop, was approved for sale. Okay. And first large-scale cultivation of GM soybean and maize was in 1996. And in 2000, Arabidopsis genome sequence was completed. In 2003, International Rice Genome Sequencing Project started. And before that, human genome sequencing was started. And in 2002, transgenic cotton was introduced into India. In 2004, golden rice field trial was started. Golden rice, which was fortified food for vitamin A content. And since then, there is increased cultivation of GM crops across the countries, and the farmers have started employing more and more GM crops. So now, why should we need genetic engineering or other biotechnological tool? So basically, to meet out the growing food demand, to feed the growing population globally, and then so these are the techniques that are used in the past for achieving these objectives, that is growing food demand to meet out the growing population. Okay, and these are the international institutes, the countries which are spread across the world. And there are different centers of origins of crops spread across the world. Okay, so the major reason of evolution of these plant biotechnology techniques was the yield saturation. Okay, so after Green Revolution, in spite of applying all the chemicals, there came a stagnant yield saturation, reduced variability in the germplasm. So all this led to requirement of alternate strategies. So in order to keep up the growth, they have to think about different methodologies or techniques to bring in genetic variation, to bring in the required boost in the yields, and then claim these plant genetic engineering and micropropagation. So the current data for this particular information you can find in ISAAA.org on transgenic crops. I repeat this, the current data on transgenic crops you can get in ISAAA.org. All the information connected with crop plants you will get in this particular website. So as a result of biotechnology, what is that expected? More crop, more yield, reduced pesticide and insecticide consumption, conservation of like endangered crops, okay, improving the quality traits, and also you can focus on improving the nutrition, okay, like quality. For example, golden rice, which is aimed at improving vitamin A concentration, okay, and to solve the societal problems. Okay. So current status of GM crops, I'll just rush through the slides. And here, all this information, as I said, it is available in ISAAA.org. The current statistics and data on GM crops is available. So any doubts in in today's class? You can send the questions in the groups also. If there are no questions, you can leave the meeting. We'll